This is Dr. Sean Marie Higgins, and this is Spirit Call Out. Spirit comes to me to reach you, and I'm calling out their messages through this unique, intuitive, artistic process called Spirit Call Out. I'd like to talk about the art of intuition a little bit before today's amazing call out. So, to me, this is an intuitive art project, Spirit Call Out. It's my process of the art of intuition. It's a blending of my vibration and spirit's vibration. Each episode communicates a different message from a different spirit. And each time, each episode is also a different aspect of myself that recognizes and perceives that individual spiritual vibration that's coming to me in that moment. So each episode is its own piece of art, its own intuitive, dynamic, artistic expression of the communication and bridging of two dimensions, of two realities. And these realities are the ones of the physical and of the spiritual worlds. Not only is each episode its own dynamic piece of artistic intuition, this whole entire show is. Spirit just started lining up one morning to give me messages for other people. This was different than the way I normally communicate with spirit when I have clients who come in and when I'm out in public in stores and intuitive discussions with my spirit guides for books and classes and things. This was a different kind of thing where spirit would literally line up one after the other and come through with completely different information. And what I knew telepathically is that these messages were not for me. That's what was different about it. So initially, I thought to myself, well, how am I supposed to deliver these messages? One morning, I asked one spirit, and it was the one who was calling out for his son. I think it was the last episode. He was calling out, my son, my son. And he showed his face to me. And I asked him, do you live in Maine? Do you live near me? And he said, no, very forcefully, and then disappeared. And then I thought to myself, how am I going to deliver these messages? And what I received from my spirit guides is they told me to call them out in those words. So in order to do that, I had to create something completely new from the raw materials of my own unique and personal relationship with each spirit that came through and the ones who are yet to still come through. There are no rule books for this, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Just my way of seeing and perceiving spirit and my raw way of interpreting spirit and spirit's raw way of communicating to me. And then that combination of vibrations and train into the translation of that language, because each spirit that comes through has a different language because they're coming from a different interdimensional space. And every interdimensional layer has a different density. When you're talking to spirit, it's different with each spirit because they're of different density. So every language is just a little bit different. And the language of spirit, interpreted by human and vice versa, is a language, if not the language, that is different for each specific spirit and human being. So there is an infinite way of translating and communicating this spiritual languages. So each one of these episodes is truly its own piece of intuitive art. Neither one of us have any rules. Spirit doesn't have any rules. I don't have rules. Just the love of spirit for their living in body friends and family, and the love that I have for the spirits in general and for translating those messages. I would say my magical pen or paintbrush, so to speak, to use the analogy of art, my magical pen that allowed this psychic version of art to come through me was my curiosity. And then my willing participation in finding out who is talking to me, why this message exists, what the message means, and for who the message is. I didn't just write it off as daydreaming or dismiss it as an interesting experience. The ink of my curiosity translates for you the interdimensional language of spirit. My pen of curiosity draws the bridge between humankind and the spiritual world by first trusting the spirits and what they were doing and the experience itself. I had to trust that it was real. I had to trust that something so loving and beautiful would have to be real. I had the courage to deliver it without apology. I brought these messages from the interdimensional realms through my physical everyday life by telling the people. And it was through doing that, through trusting spirit and having the courage to deliver the messages, that I was rewarded with the validation that they are real. By going up to someone and saying, "Excuse me, you might think I'm crazy. But first of all, I talk to spirits. And second of all, I have a message from spirit for you." And thankfully, these beautiful humans would actually not run away from me. They would listen to me and say, "Okay." And they were receptive. And that touched my heart so deeply that they would actually listen to a complete stranger giving them a message from a spirit. Doing this was the only way I could ever get validation. And that validation was returned to me by the most incredible expressions of gratitude and the information that they were actually healed emotionally after receiving the messages. Some people would cry, some people would tear up, some people would hug me, complete strangers in stores. Patients would show incredible emotion, and it would start a whole conversation about this deceased loved one that had come through during their visit, and all kinds of experiences like that. So it was my curiosity that was the pen, the artistic tool in the expression of spiritual messages through my body, and then to the minds and ears of the individuals for whom the messages are for. So my artistic tool was my curiosity. My canvas is you. Through my body into your mind, your consciousness, through your ears, and through your biology, these messages and healing are delivered and displayed. They are resonated and then they fade. They cannot be hung up on a wall or kept on a bookshelf or displayed in any other way than through the beautiful experience of life and the breathing of life and the seeing of life and experiencing the effects of these messages within your own biology. That is how this kind of art is expressed. Even if it's not for you, even if you're just watching these videos or listening to the audio recordings and learning, that is also a gift. There's a lot of information that will resonate through your biology, through your mind, through your consciousness, that will open it just a little bit more and more and more for your own intuitive abilities to expand. But if this message is for you, then this is a direct arrow of health. When spirit touches you in that way, when a deceased loved one comes to you in that way, and you know the message is for you, and it validates to you that spirit is real and that your crossed over loved ones are still with you in spirit form, this changes your mind, which changes neurochemistry biologically. This changes your belief system, which changes your neurochemistry biologically. And when belief systems are changed, that quality of change in belief conducts through your biology and transforms into its physiological equivalent, which is healing. Your body is changed forever. It causes immediate whole body biological cascades of anti-inflammatory reactions and immune enhancing reactions. When the truth of the reality of the presence of spirit is acknowledged by your consciousness, this pulses through your physical form, healing action. Your physical body is pulsed with a moment of healing. In fact, this is what Spirit has told me years ago when I began trusting them and delivering their messages. They told me that they give me each time I deliver a correct message to someone, which is what's happening to me right now. Actually, as I'm feeling this, they deliver to me a pulsation of heartfelt sensation, a feeling of love welling up within me that brings me to tears. This is a pulsed moment of, you got it right, and a gift of love from me for giving the correct message. It takes courage and trust to give these messages. What better gift can one receive than anti-inflammation and immune enhancement? What better gift could a physical body on this earth receive than healing accompanied by the feeling of unconditional love? The unconditional love of the spirit that just gave it to you, and a sense of purpose fulfilled, and that you have just transferred that same gift of healing that was just pulsed to you, resonating to another So not only do you receive the gift of love and healing, you resonate it and pulsate it to others. And then through that, they conduct it to others. And that conduction, that pulsation of healing onto others is also part of the gift. There's no better gift. All right. So now let's move on to today's call out. Now that I've got you all ready for pulsations of love and healing, I have a beautiful little girl, about 4 years old, who appeared to me as a photograph. She came through on September 23rd, 2024, on a morning of a type of technique that I'll teach you in another episode. But during one early morning, while I do my early morning technique almost every day in order to talk to spirit, she came through on September 23rd, 2024. Now, this is always somewhere between 4 and 6 a.m. in the morning. A very young girl, maybe 4 or 5 years old, very, very blonde, yellow, white hair. And what I'm going to try to do right now is share my screen with you so you can see a picture of her. And here it is. Hopefully you can see that. This is the beautiful little girl. I mean, look how adorable. Like, it nearly brought me to tears, as it's doing right now, just looking at her face. It was so adorable, and just such love coming from those eyes and innocence. So this was her initial introduction to me. I sketched this from my seeing of her in a spiritual realm. This is my memory of how she introduced herself to me. Her initial introduction to me was as if she was looking at the camera. So it appeared as though she was looking at me, but it looked also like she was just posing for the camera. So to anyone, it would have looked like that. So I cannot say that she was actually looking me in the eyes specifically, but it felt more like she was showing me the headshot of a beautifully posed photograph. Very porcelain, gorgeous skin, very straight, very blonde hair. It was natural, very white blonde hair. She had the hair on the right side of her head clipped in a barrette that I believe was sort of an orange red or red orange color. She was smiling with her mouth closed. And still, this does not capture her exact quality of appearance, but it's the best that I could do. And if you've seen my previous sketches, I'm actually getting a lot better at sketching. So you can laugh as much as you want. Laughter is medicine, and I love it. Just see the difference in my quality of sketching. It is improving as I'm doing this, and it's a different quality drawing something that you see in the spirit world than it is drawing something that you're seeing in the physical world. And I've talked about that a little bit in previous episodes. And believe me, it is an experience in healing and expansion of consciousness to be able to bring back something you see in the spirit world into the physical world as a drawing, much different than drawing something that's already in the physical world, where it's really staying in the same plane of dimension. This is translated through dimension. So I'm trying really hard to capture her facial features, and I'm trying really hard to capture the exact quality of feature of the spirits as they show themselves to me. And I apologize to them that I'm not yet able to do that exactly. But this is the best I can do. And hopefully this will spark the attention of the living embodied loved ones that it's for. So as I mentioned initially, she just simply appeared to me like this as a still form. It appeared as though she was wearing a little bit of makeup. For me, this is how a spirit introduces themselves generally. So we have our own kind of language and etiquette, which I do talk about in another episode, spiritual etiquette. For me, spirit has learned that it's much easier for them to introduce themselves to me as a still shot, because I get a lot of telepathic information from just that image that I'm seeing. And for that moment, that is what my brain, what my consciousness can handle. And that is how I can most clearly accept the information of a brand new spirit who I've never met before coming through initially. Through the stillness of the image and my visual, that is able to translate to me. Also, I've considered this to be a polite introduction. And I've also considered it to be an invitation. So Spirit has been very considerate with me in doing this almost every time. They show their image as a still shot that is not only information, but it is an invitation to then again revisit them when I feel comfortable and have the time. Through that revisiting and drawing of the spirit, I receive more information. More information comes through. And for her, what I received upon that revisiting with her is this. I received an image where that same headshot of her is on the lower right side of a magazine page, almost like she was in an article for receiving an award or something about her. I'm not sure what the text said, but I clearly saw headlines in text, printed text with paragraphs, and then another headline, and then another paragraph, short paragraphs with headlines, just like you would see in a magazine page or on a flyer. I'm not sure what it said. I do not believe that the words were important for the spirit to communicate, because then I would have been shown the letters and the words clearly. What was important for her to communicate was that it was a flyer or a magazine of some sort. I'm not sure if she was being awarded with something or if she was being announced as missing. I'm not sure. But her picture was shown that on the right lower side of this magazine page or flyer. And this is also sometimes something that spirit does so that they can give identifying information to their living and body loved ones. So this could be something identifying, because many little girls with blonde hair that are beautiful could have been missing or deceased at a young age, such as this. So this would be identifying to her loved ones, her parents, that this was actually her. The red beret or orange red beret or beret on the right side of her head was very distinct. She highlighted that very distinctly. It almost glowed beyond everything else, as well as this magazine page or flyer. So that is what she's highlighting as identifying features of her exactly. Beautiful blue eyes. I did notice those. And so her message is, I love you and I see you. That I can't stress enough for this message. I see you. I see what you're doing. I'm with you in your life events. I miss you. I love you and I'm here. That is her message. I hope that this reaches the living and body loved ones. I thank you so much for listening today. I wish you the very best in your own arts of intuition. Please like, subscribe. And as always, you can reach me at osteopathicwell.com if this is your spirit call out. Some people have reached out to me privately because it is intimate and emotional. I do thank you all so much for listening. I am looking forward to seeing you next time. I wish you all beautiful intuitive journey. Until then, namaste.